Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Newsroom. I'm your host, Khalid. But today is the 8th of March 2024, and these are the stories that we will be highlighting during the course of our show. We'll begin, ladies and gentlemen, with the International Women's Day that is being celebrated across the world, including in Pakistan today as well. This, of course, recognizes the social, economic, cultural, and political achievements that women across the world, including in Pakistan, have made and continue to make with every passing year. The theme of this year's day is Invest in Women to Accelerate Progress. The invest in women, or the heightening of the prowess that women have, needs to be done from the very beginning, from when they are in the crib to so that when they grow up as individuals, they can be important leaders, important members of the society. But of course, when it comes to Pakistani women, there are so many examples that come to our mind, from the Prime Minister of Pakistan, Benazir Bhutto, to now the first Chief Minister of the region of Punjab, Maryam Nawaz, and so many other examples like Forbes, that recognize scores of Pakistani entrepreneurs for their work, like midwives providing care during floods, who have been highlighted by the BBC as well, as far as their contribution is concerned. The contributions of women in society are numerous. I mean, I could count the examples during the entire course of the show, and the show wouldn't end, and those accomplishments would not. But we will try to understand how important the role of women in the society is in the first segment. Our second story, ladies and gentlemen, concerns Israel and Palestine, day 154 of all the events that have been happening. The fifth month has begun as far as these atrocities are concerned, and when it comes to that also, there are a lot of question marks as to whether the ceasefire will actually happen in Palestine or not for before the beginning of the month of Ramadan, because as far as the latest reports go, it doesn't seem likely. Then comes the fact whether there will be a ground offensive on Rafah as well, because apparently, as far as the latest statements come, especially from Netanyahu, it seems as if this is going to be a reality, despite all the pressures that Israel is having from all the important countries of the world, organizations like the UN, and also its most important ally, that is the United States of America. This and more will be highlighted in our second story. Then we'll be talking about 6 Sri Lankans who've been knifed to death in Canada. A mother, 4 young children in the Canadian capital, Ottawa, were killed, police said on Thursday. And of course, this has rocked the nation, because normally these things do not happen. A 19-year-old male student from Sri Lanka has been arrested in this regard, and of course more details haven't been given, but as soon as they do, we will be highlighting them in our news and shows like these as well. Then the rapid return of the lanina weather phenomenon, talking of climate change, could actually decrease the risk that the 2024 smashed as far as the heat records last year was concerned. This is what Europe's climate monitor has said, and it could prove to be a boon rather than a bane. At the same time, ocean temperatures hit a record high in February, with the average global sea surface temperatures at 21.06 degrees Celsius. A lot of happening on the climate change, and of course we need to also move together as one positively before it is too late to control that. Let's begin with our first segment, and that is on International Women's Day. A very important day, although as a lot of people have said, and a lot of women in my family also say, there shouldn't be one day to celebrate women. Every day when you see a woman working, toiling, whether it be in the fields, whether it be as head of organizations or in organizations or in media such as ours as well, we need to value them, we need to respect them, and we need to give them the due role and the due responsibilities, with all the opportunities that are also given to the male members of our society. We'll be joined by 2 members in the studios of our female population, let's put it that way, in Pakistan. They represent 2 different segments, 2 different strata of society, and work in 2 different organizations. Let me introduce them to you one by one. On my very right is Fatima Lodhi. She's an entrepreneur, an award winner, and she is the CEO of a company that is called Dark is Divine. We'll be understanding what her organization means, but I think the name gives a lot to it. Thank you very much, Fatima, to have joined us.
Thank you for having me.
Our second guest is Sadia. She's an educationist working in this field since almost 2 decades. And of course, the role of women in education cannot be denied because of the fact that you train the children, whether they be men or women, from the very onset, and you are more or less the second mothers to them when they are in schools, because they mostly spend all of their days in school. So responsibility becomes paramount, so that these young men and women grow up to be intelligent human beings who respect each other. Thank you very much to have joined us.
Thank
Sadia.
you for having me on.
Let's begin with you, being an educationist and the senior one here. The International Women's Day is of course celebrated across the world. Today it is being celebrated again. This recognizes the social, the economic, the cultural and political achievements that women have had and made across the world, including in Pakistan. Both of you are of course examples of that as well. The theme this year is investing in women to accelerate progress. As an educationist, I'd like to understand at what level should we invest in women since they are born, since they enter the very, very primary kindergarten schools, so that they could be trained properly in order to understand what their value is, what their place in the society is, and how they can grow up to be important members of our country.
Thank you so much for having me on the show. This is a very important day for all of us. As you said that, Women's Day is every day, I understand. But, in a country like Pakistan, we need to actually reaffirm this, that, we are talking about 48% of our population who is still, struggling on a lot of ends. So when you're talking about how we're going to start up, I think the day a child is born, a girl is born, we should start working that day. Investing in women is like you're investing in a family, you're investing in the world. Because that woman is going to grow up, the child is going to grow up, she's going to study, she's going to go to the colleges, then she'll get married, she'll have her own family, the kids, and then she's the one who's going to take the legacy to the next levels. So, investing in a girl as soon as she's born, when you're putting her to a school, because I am an educationist, so, we have children around starting from 3 years old to then, all the way up to their OA levels. So I understand that when the parents, they bring in the child to school and they feel the importance of that child going to a good place for education, that's where we are putting in the investment. That's where the investment starts. It's very important to give girls that confidence that yes, they can. And education, I think, is the best thing that one can give to anyone, may it be a male person or a female, regardless of gender. But for women, I think it's very, very important to be educated, be on their roles, because they are the ones who are going to, grow a family around. They have to be, they're a very important part of the society. So if the women are educated, it makes a marked difference, May they work or may they not work. Maybe they are housewives, but it has a lot of impact. An educated person has a lot of impact, and that too a lady being educated and knowing about the world
and knowing about her rights as well.
Knowing about the rights, that's very, very important, because if you have no idea of what's happening around you, you don't have an idea of the world around you, how would you go for your rights? You can't. So education plays the best role in it. And you said that when we have to start, I think the day a girl is born, one has to start.
Okay, and I think that should go on, and because the woman is the one who will nurture the future generation as well.
Definitely.
So she needs to be properly educated and properly knowing her rights as a woman, as a girl, as a sister, as a mother, as a wife, so that she can strive well in the society. I think that is the most important thing that we should take out of it. Fatima, your organization, Darkest Divine, we've already talked about it in another show in which I interviewed you a very, very long time back. And you have since then matured quite a bit. So has your organization. You've received various accolades from across the world as well. And of course, you try to reduce the discrimination against dark-colored women who are facing colorism. There are so many stigmas when it comes to women, especially in the subcontinent. Look at the way we are propagating the fairness creams and all the other products, so that the women can change their colors. And I mean, this is not the only stigma, and there are so many other social stigmas related to this as well. How deep-rooted are issues such as colorism in your point of view for women? How successful have you been as a CEO of an organization such as Darkest Divine to empower these very women, to tell them that color has no value when it comes to how important a woman can be to herself, to the people around her, or to the nation?
Thank you. Actually, you know, this issue, colorism, is very close to my heart because I have been through it. I've faced it myself. So I can relate to it, that how a girl feels when she's discriminated on the basis of her looks, something that she's born with. You know, we have no control over our looks. So basically, you know, what happens is when a girl is discriminated, definitely she's going to grow up, she's going to have her own family. And if she does not have that confidence that she needs to have, right, she cannot raise her kids pretty well, or confident kids, I would say. So when I started this campaign, the main idea of starting this campaign was to empower the women out there, especially girls, so so that they're empowered enough to stand up and speak up for their own rights, and to let the world know that there's nothing wrong with their skin tone, and everyone is an equal part of this society, you know. They should get equal opportunities when it comes to education, or let's say if they want to apply for a front desk job, or if they want to apply as an air hostess, something that places them in the public eye. So there shouldn't be discrimination when they go and apply for such jobs. So my campaign has been working on those lines, and I think I have been successful because I've been doing that. It's been more than a decade.
I know.
You know, so I've come so far. What I've seen is that now different brands are basically, they're taking models who are dark skinned. You know, be it
the change is coming.
Yes,
basically.
yes. And even you can see in the drama industry now, the changes, you can see that. And the name of such fairness creams have also been changed, you know. So I think it's a success. I would count it as a success.
You know, because I think to make women understand their importance is also to empower them. And I think the whole exercise of having an International Women's Day is to empower these very women who feel that they are deprived one way or the other. You need to tell them that every woman, or every man for that aspect, has a certain positive you know, inclination in his personality that he should or she should work upon in order to prove his or her, you know, strength in the society. Sadia Chand Sahaba, you are an educationist. What challenges do you face when it comes to girl education, especially because you see that every day, and you must have in all of your career seen different issues that girls, you know, face. You must have seen that around you as an educationist. You must have seen in the profession. How can we foster their skills to be more for them to be more important members of the society, and how can education, in your point of view, also be used as a tool to empower women and to give them their due rights, as has been enshrined in our religion and in our constitution?
All right. Now, talking about the schools that we are running, I mean the places that I've worked in, we have seen over the years that, you know, people still till date prefer sending their boys to a better school and sending the girls to some normal, you know, school where they can, you know, it's okay, it's affordable and all. So still we have that discrimination of a boy going to a better place.
Before and I'd like to just give you a very personal example. We are two brothers and one sister. My sister is the only one who went to the best education institution.
Same here.
Both of us went to normal government schools.
Okay, me and my brother, we used to go to a government school, but as soon as we have had these private schools coming in, my father placed me in a private school and he gave that priority to my education. So I think the priorities, they're coming from home. You know, I was supported a lot by my in-laws, my husband, to complete my education after my marriage. You know, there was a willpower that I had, but then, you know, support was required. If I had not been given that chance or support, I would not have been where I am right now. So, you know, giving that opportunity to women and letting them do what they want to do is very, very important. And what Fatima just said about the color discrimination, we already have a lot of discrimination in our society. So, you know, then we are also, you know, discriminating women with their color also. So if these girls and all the girls around Pakistan, they're well educated, nobody is going to ask you about your color.
Of course.
Nobody is going to ask you who you are. You know, if they see you, you are a qualified person, you know, you can do things well, you are skilled, nobody is going to bother for your color. But we need to give that confidence to our girls.
Because so many girls become complexed because of these very stigmas that are attached to them.
That's so true. And in the education sector where I work, we still face this issue, the phenomenon, how to convince people to bring their girls to schools as well, because still they are reluctant to put them in better education places than the boys. They're very happy to bring in the boys, but gee, rest of the 3 girls, oh, they're studying in some other place, you know, which is like, okay, fine, you're doing okay over there. So this is very important. And you know, to empower women, it's like, you know, the UN slogan that we have is that invest in women, and you know, you will be seeing that tomorrow. That's exactly what we need to do. You know, we need to start now. But I believe that the Generation Z that we have right now, they will change whatever was happening in the past. They're well informed.
They are up to date on all the different rights that they have as enshrined by the constitution, by the government, by the religion as well. True. Fatima, you know, you have been working since such a long time. The last time I interviewed you as well, and you've progressed since then. You're married, so is Ma'am Sadia Chand. A lot of stigmas also pertain to the role of woman as a mother, as a sister, as a daughter-in-law, and you know, as a wife. And it's, you know, I really hail women who juggle their professional, personal lives like the both of you do with equal aplomb. I'd like to understand how you manage to do that, because for, you know, us, it's so difficult to even complete one facet of our thing, that be good professionally. How can you be so competent both in your personal and professional lives?
I would like to mention something. I recently delivered a baby like 2 months ago, and I was back to work after 40 days. Okay. So, you know, I think we need to do it, because if we want to excel in our career as well, so we need to prove ourselves on different grounds, so that we are told that yes, you can do it, so you can go and achieve what you want. So I think it's how determined we are. And I think we can stay up. we can be sleepless. It's okay. We are sleep deprived as well, but we can still work.
I don't know how you guys manage it. I'd really like to understand one day the chemistry behind all of this. Sadia Chand Sahiba, the term gender equality is so scary to many people. Why is that?
I don't know. Maybe you guys are scared of us somehow. No, I think that. It's still a stigma. It's still a difficult thing for so many to digest. It's still difficult to have a female boss around. It's still difficult to, to understand that, oh my God, how can the question that you just asked Fatima, like how can you do so many things together? It's like women are blessed with this, that they can multitask. They can have those 10, 15 windows open in their mind, and they can, you know, circulate around, and they know that, you know, this is how we're going to do it, and they can manage it like home, office, you know, kids, husband, in-laws, everything is set.
House chores,
So yeah, everything. So, you know, this is how we do it. But this, when it comes to this question of your gender thing, it's still very difficult for the society to understand. But what Fatima was saying, like she said that she's back after the maternity leave, I'd like to just highlight, sometimes our families are not supporting. Many a times the families are supporting, but the society is not supporting. Sometimes the society is not even accepting that, you know, this person can do this job or is capable of doing this job. And then first thing is the gender. You know, you go for an interview somewhere, will you be able to manage? Oh my God, why are you asking me that question? Will I be able to manage? That's my problem. You know, I will be able to manage, but there's so many things, that stigmas that are attached to the gender thing we still have, that, you know, we would want, we still do not think about a man and a woman can do a lot of things, and if we start doing those things together, I mean, that's going to change the world, that's going to change Pakistan.
That is so true. But you know, you talked of gender-based violence is also very rampant in societies such as ours, in the subcontinent, even in the West, even in the countries such as the US and the United Kingdom. We have so many, you know, issues of gender-based violence. And then another thing that we see a lot in the subcontinent is the rights of home-based workers. A lot of women and girls who are home-based are, you know, subjected to violence. How can one, you know, counter that effectively? And how can that be done by the women? Because we've seen sometimes it is the women folk who themselves, you know, incur this violence on these girls who are home-based workers. How important is also the role of men who are in the family, to empower these very women who are, for example, home workers, so as to not to sustain violence such as that, and also for gender-based violence. I'd like to understand your point of view on what needs to be done. I'll begin with you and then I'll go to Fatima.
Acha, dekhiye, for this I would again say education. You know, you educate your girls, they get to know their rights. They will then raise those families and those brothers and sons, and you know, they'll have those men around who will know that, you know, there are rights of women as well. I need to respect my mother, I need to respect my sister, I need to respect my grandmother. They'll get to know it. But that's through a women as well, right? So you need to actually invest in women through education. That's the best thing one can do. When you are done with that educational part, obviously you're doing it for both the genders, and then you're raising a society where there are values, where there are ethics, and also those men and those women will know how to take care. Now we have so many, I mean, in our areas, where in our villages, where we see a lot of women are working all the time, and you know, they're working in the fields, they're working at home, they're working everywhere, they're carrying their children on the back and they're still working.
Yes.
And that's the toughest job, I would say. We just go to the offices, sit and come back, but they're doing the toughest job, but still they have no idea of their rights. They would never fight for it. They just keep feeling guilty. You know, that feeling of a bechara person is still there in women in Pakistan, and I think we need to change that. And changing it through education is, I think that's the best tool that we can have.
Okay, what's your take on that, Fatima?
I would say that again, education is very important, since she has been talking about it. When it comes to mothers, the primary socialization is very important. You know, when the child is at home and she's teaching the boy especially that how to respect your sister, your grandmother, and all the you know, ladies out there. So I think it starts from your home, it begins at home, and then comes the role of the teachers, the female teachers out there. Because I think education, when the mothers are educated, then I'm sure the kids out there and the sons especially, they will definitely respect the women out there, and they will make sure that their wives or you know, their daughters are empowered.
Yeah.
That is true. Another aspect that I'd like to understand is women's safety. We hear so many issues across the world, in this subcontinent as well, as to I mean, women being raped, women being subjugated to violence, and then we also see what is happening in Palestine, in Kashmir, and so many others, where women are also subjected to violence. What should be done in order to prioritize women's safety in societies such as ours, or even in such societies where conflict is ongoing?
Acha. Dekhiye, for this, I think acceptance is the first thing that we need to do. Sometimes it's the background, the families, they don't want to share things that are happening out there. Maybe there's a rape case and the family doesn't want to put it up because, you know, gee, it's going to be a stigma. It's a stigma, they don't want to do that. Sometimes it's a violence on the road, and you know, we are unable to help the other person. Sometimes we know there's some domestic violence happening, and we don't want to talk about it because we just want to hide it somehow, you know, because we still are fighting those stigmas that we have, and that's where the women get, you know, they really get suppressed because of all these issues that we have as a cultural background that we belong to, you know. If there's a divorce case, you know, people are like, oh my God, there's a divorce happened.
Where our religion, you know, gives all the right to the women.
I mean, it's all right. It's perfectly fine. So, you know, we need to come out of these stigmas. I mean, that's the only way we can help women. And somebody knowing the right, sometimes you even don't, these women who come across, I mean, the victims of all these things, they don't even know where to go, whom to ask, what to do. So, you know, that education, that relevance of that thing, the issue, they still do not understand. I mean, what next? What I can do for myself? What is my right on this? You know, where I can complain. So I think the society as a whole, and then the government as well, we need to sit together and find out ways where we can support. Like here I would like to talk about lots of our female athletes and, you know, the players that we have around. Now the recognition is not there. The recognition is not done as much as it should be, because all those girls are women out there playing and, you know, doing lots of things. But recognition is required. So if you start recognizing people, if you start recognizing women, all those people who have been struggling, I'm sure that this will change.
All right. Last question, I'd like a short answer. Fatima, you being an entrepreneur and the CEO of a company, how important is efforts to enhance women's economic inclusion in societies such as ours?
It is very important because I think what I believe is that every women out there should be financially independent, you know, whether it's a small home-based business or whatever, but they should have something, you know,
to
that
stand on.
Exactly, and they start earning. Then their husbands will also respect them.
Do you feel respect comes by this, or do you feel respect also comes by understanding women better?
I think it's both ways, you know, because if they are financially independent and they're not depending on their husbands, so definitely they know that she's not going to come to me for money.
I'm going to second Fatima on that, because you know,
so,
economic independence is something that everybody knows is so important.
I'm sure all the women in Pakistan are so skilled in one you know, thing or the other.
Definitely.
If you are an educationist, if you are a CEO, if you are not that, there are so many other things that you can excel in.
Exactly.
You know, and a lot of women do that, like home-based. There are so many home-based businesses that women are involved in and
online
are working
jobs
in.
And
yes, exactly.
But now what we see on Instagram and Facebook, that a lot of women, a lot of girls have started their own businesses. May it be a smaller one, may it be a larger one, but they have.
Social media has also improved their recognition and also given them more avenues to work on.
Definitely.
Thank you so very much to the both of you, Sadia Chand Sahiba, leading educationist, and of course Fatima Lodhi, founder Dark is Divine, to have come all the way to the studios on this very auspicious day, that is International Women's Day. And of course, as the theme says, invest in women to accelerate progress. Both of you are doing that in your respective fields to invest in girls. This is what you're doing, Sadia ma'am, and of course you are also doing that through your to invest in women to accelerate progress in countries such as ours. And we need that. I think without the involvement of women folk in our society, we cannot achieve success, economic or otherwise, in our society or our nation. Thank you to the both of you to have joined us and to have come to us in the studios. And happy International Women's Day to the both of you. Let's come to our second segment, and that concerns day 154 of the war between Israel and Palestine. The Israeli army has attacked and killed at least 11 people and wounded many more in the city of Deir al-Balah. President Joe Biden also, addressed the State of the Union speech in which he said that the US is going to build a temporary pier on Gaza's coastline to allow aid to enter. He has also said that Israel must allow more aid into Gaza and ensure that humanitarian workers aren't caught in the crossfire. He also told Tel Aviv that protecting and saving innocent lives has to be a priority. On the other hand, a Palestinian delegation has left Cairo with an official of the group saying Israel has thwarted all attempts by mediators to reach an agreement. Of course, this agreement was for a temporary ceasefire for about 40 days, for which many countries were working around the clock. At least 30,878 Palestinians, ladies and gentlemen, have been killed and 72,402 injured in Israeli attacks on Gaza since the 7th of October. 78 people have been killed in 8 Israeli attacks in the last 24 hours, while 104 people have been injured by the Israeli army over the past day. Up to 300,000 Palestinians are believed to remain in northern Gaza after Israel ordered the evacuation of the entire region, including Gaza City, in October. Many have been reduced to eating animal fodder to survive. The United Nations now says 1 in 6 children below the age of 2 in the north suffer from acute malnutrition. UNRWA chief Lazarani has said and has told the United Nations General Assembly as well that his agency is an uncharted territory with serious consequences for global and regional security if more funding is not secured. Well, this said, there are some countries that have now started to fund UNRWA, and that I think is a step in the right direction. This understanding of this all. United Nations Chief Antonio Guterres has been time and again asking for a cessation to the hostilities as far as Palestine is concerned, and he says the risks of a regional war are now a reality. We are seeing that by the different strikes in other countries such as Lebanon as well, and the Houthis also that are striking those ships that are passing by the Red Sea. The UN chief urges all the sides to step back from the brink and consider the horrendous costs of what is happening as far as Palestine is concerned. Gaza's health ministry spokesperson Ashraf Al-Qudra has said today, of course, is the International Women's Day. He said about 5,000 women were still giving birth every month in the territory in conditions that he said were harsh, unsafe and unhealthy. He also said about 60,000 women were going through their pregnancies without proper health care and were suffering dehydration and malnutrition. Speaking of dehydration, we have seen horrendous videos of people who have been, who have passed away because of dehydration. And of course, this is something that that needs to be looked upon, because if this is not a war crime, I don't know what is. 3 rockets were also fired from Gaza in the Israeli city of Serdot. Israeli officials said one of the rockets landed within the city limits. But if you compare that with what Israel is doing in Palestine, on Thursday, U.S. President Joe Biden did deliver his State of the Union address. I talked to you about this. He did urge Israel to allow more aid into the Gaza Strip, but he also said that he had been a lifelong supporter of the United States ally, that is Israel. No one has a stronger requisition than I do. I challenge any one of you here. This is what he added. The fact is that on the same side, you are asking Israel for aid, and then you say that you are the strongest ally. So what should Israel move towards? Should it move towards, becoming a stronger ally, or should it move towards helping Palestinians, is a question that a lot of people are asking. We've been joined by Brigadier retired Waqar Hassan Khan, who's a senior analyst. Sir, thank you very much to have joined us. I'd like to begin with the State of the Union address by Joe Biden, in which he, of course, talks about this aid that needs to enter Gaza. He said that Tel Aviv should protect and save innocent lives. And, of course, he also, tries to, put some sense into Israel. But are these mere statements?
Yeah, I think State of the Union address is a basically policy statement that every president has to do it. And within that, Palestine-Israel conflict is live going on. So he had to address it. But looking at the policy, and if you go back, I think last time we did discuss that Israelis followed the Haiva policy, which is basically mowing the generations of Palestinians, and then, of course, pushing them back by years. Unfortunately, this Haiva policy now metamorphosed into, I would say, genocide. And if you look at the case which was taken up by South Africa to International Court of Justice, I think it was very clear that basically it's a genocide. Unfortunately, West, led by the US, has not been able to stop Israel. And I would say that the talk of creating a humanitarian corridor or some harbor for aiding the Palestinians, supplying them with food and rations and water, is just I would say an eyewash. It's continuation of what Israel is doing. It's basically the genocide, then pushing the Palestinians from north. The Gaza has been devastated. Then you had Khan Yunus, and now they're pushing it towards Rafah. So unfortunately, this is just continuation of policy, and maybe it is to address the vote bank in the United States. That yes, US is also looking at the humanitarian side of it.
Because there's a huge chunk of the vote bank, Brigadier Saab, that is not content with the Palestine policy that the current US government is pursuing. This said, I'd like to understand something. We talk a lot about aid that needs to enter, and now there is a whole talk of the ports and piers being constructed so that the aid could come through the sea. When the more rapid route is through land, why is Israel's strongest ally not able to have that route activated?
Yeah, I think that's the hypocrisy. If you look at Rafah crossing or the Egyptian side of Gaza, that is the easiest route, land route, and there are trucks which are lined up. And mainly, I think what Israel is doing is trying to control everything. So in case US is able to bridge a harbor and bring it via Mediterranean Sea, although it's a longer route, but mainly Israel would have control. And any, let's say, doubt about what is coming in, it will be done by Israel. But this is, I think, totally inhuman. Main thing is that, as you mentioned, more than 30,000 people have perished, and almost 30% are women. And Gaza itself is a very, very young population. If you look at women bearing children, and then there was open starvation going on. So it's happening right in front of entire world. When it started on 7th October, I think international media, especially the Arab media, and even within Pakistan, there were a lot of, I would say, consensus and concern, and there were live coverage. But if you look at media, less Al Jazeera or maybe some Arab channels, by and large, international media just takes it as a normal news. So I think Israel has been able to create an apathy to loss of life, apathy to genocide, which is very, very dangerous, because people are dying in front of the entire world, being live telecasted, and by and large things are very, very normal. So that's, I think, the unfortunate part. Despite the war expanded, I think, to Red Sea, the war expanded to north of Israel with Hezbollah, but still, and that could have been, I think, the easiest thing Israel, in case they want to avoid entire area of the region engulfed into war, they could just stop bombing the Palestinians. So they have not done it. So it means that basically they are not bothered if international trade is affected. They are not bothered if even lives of Israelis are threatened. They would go with their Dahiwa policy, which is now, I would say, turned into a full-fledged genocide.
We have to go to a short break. We'll be right back. Welcome back. We are discussing day 154 of Israel-Palestine conflict and of course the genocide, the ethnic cleansing that is going on in Gaza and in other parts of Palestine as we speak. We are discussing with Brigadier retired Waqar Hassan Khan Sahab. Brigadier Sahab, we were discussing about the statistics, and you did talk about the women, the pregnant women and all. I'd also like to add to that around 9,000 women have been killed so far, with an average tally of 63 women who are killed every single day, with 37 women who leave families behind. When you look at a country that itself has gone through a lot of turmoil, as it says, post the Second World War, don't you feel the same community has lost all sense of humanity with this ethnic cleansing, with this genocidal acts that it has been perpetrating since October last year?
Basically, the Jewish community suffered loss of life, they suffered genocide, and it is known as Holocaust. And if you look at the Jews also, there's a clear division because every Jew is not a Zionist, but the government at present is unfortunately held by the Zionists. So I would agree with it that basically when you're looking at women, children, and it's being live telecasted, there's total apathy to loss of life, and the Israeli military, with all its might, is basically conducting an open genocide, despite calls from international community, despite call from I think anyone with any conscience. So that is, I think, being the unfortunate.
All right. Speaking of that, the only ray of light at the end of the tunnel was this temporary ceasefire of 40 days that could still happen, of course, before the beginning of Ramadan. But as far as the latest reports go, the delegation, the Palestinian delegation that has recently left Cairo, has said that Israel has thwarted all attempts by mediators to reach an agreement. Why is that so? When Israel's strongest ally, US, has been backing this temporary ceasefire. In fact, Joe Biden had said that it was all but confirmed.
Yeah, there was a lot of hope that because of Ramadan and then followed by Eid, we could get a 40 days break. And Hamas, I think, was also ready to negotiate. But somehow, as we were discussing the Zionist lobby, if you look at Netanyahu, you look at his coalition, the government, his defense minister, and his security minister, they're basically Zionist. And they also, I think, did not bother that Ramzan was coming and there could be, some break given. And then that could have been extended. I'm sure when you sit on the negotiating table, you can resolve the problem. The entire international community says that ultimately it has to be a two-state solution. And actually, Palestinians have given up their right. Basically, the entire land is occupied, but still they were ready. But unfortunately, Israel now wants, as some of their minister was saying, to, turn Gaza into a car park. So that's the kind of policy they have as far as humanity is concerned. But this was a golden opportunity; it could have given some relief. And if you look at starvation, if you look at kids being massacred,
Dehydration,
women,
kids and elderly dying of dehydration of all things.
yeah, exactly. So and if you compare it with Ukraine, Russia-Ukraine war is totally, 180-degree policy there. Despite that, that has been a conventional war, and Ukraine has military power also, which is resisting Russians. And there's no comparison with the loss of life in Gaza. But there, whether it was, let's say, a disruption of electricity or water, it was may turn into a human rights issue and a critical issue. But here in Gaza, everything is happening right in front of entire world, and somehow. But I would say that Western, that moral high ground or the policy of human rights has been, I think, badly dented. When they now talk of anybody, Russia or any other country, I think they have to look into their own self, that how they violated, and they couldn't stop Israel. And I would say this is a very, very sorry saga of tragedy and genocide which is continuing.
Thank you very much, Brigadier Retired Waqar Hassan Khan Sahab, Senior Analyst, to have joined us, to have discussed day 154 of Israel-Palestine conflict, and of course given us your point of view on all that is devastatingly happening in this state, and where people are, of course, looking at a very bleak future, to say the least. Thank you very much, sir, to have joined us. Let's come to our last two stories very quickly. The first concerns Canada, where 6 Sri Lankans have been knifed to death in the capital, Ottawa. Of course, this is an unusual incident, and police says Fabio de Zoisa, a 19-year-old male student from Sri Lanka, has been arrested and charged with 6 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of attempted murder. But the fact is, when you look at the deaths, the 35-year-old woman who has been killed, along with the children aged 7, 4, 2 and 2 months, as well as a 40-year-old man who was an acquaintance of the family. The father of the family also wounded in the attack is the hospital. This is just a devastating example on how violence has crept in societies in the West, and in societies that are the champions of democracy as well, like Canada has said. Police say they had no previous dealings with the suspect or the family. The Ottawa mayor, Mark Sutcliffe, says that it was one of the most shocking incidents of violence in our city's history. It indeed is, even for other cities across the world. Let's come to our last story, and that concerns climate change, where, ladies and gentlemen, lanina, as far as scientists say, could reduce extreme heat risks for 2024, and we are seeing the increase in temperatures that have gone 2 degrees or 2 degrees plus as well in the last few months. The rapid return of the La Nina weather phenomenon, scientists say, may actually decrease the risk that 2024 smashes last year's record heat, and that there's a lot of question marks as far as that is also concerned, because the summers are about to begin, and a lot of people are speculating that it's going to be a very, very hot summer this time. The fact is that people do say that, especially the climatologists say that human-caused climate change could have been taken more into account, and the necessary changes could have further been instigated. But unfortunately, a lot of things are happening in the world, including conflicts that raise the temperatures as well. Contributors to the successive record temperatures range from natural cyclical events like warming El Nino weather pattern or solar activity. Greenhouse gases also keep going up, and we all know that, and it would be very hard to explain or see temperatures so high. The recent El Nino has not been as extreme as the previous El Nino phenomena are concerned, and that is more or less a little sigh of relief. It follows a lengthy cooling La Nina, which scientists say may have downplayed the extent that the planet was warming. But at the same time, there are also other questions that pertain to increase in temperatures, like ocean temperatures that have hit a record high in February, with the average global sea surface temperatures at 21.06 degrees Celsius. These are concerning many marine records as well, and as the summer comes upon us, we will only be able to see then whether the La Nina phenomenon actually has been implemented in place in order for the temperatures to not go that high in places across the world. Only time will tell. With that, ladies and gentlemen, we come to an end for today's newsroom. It's Friday. We'll see you inshallah on Monday with news stories that pertain to us, you and Pakistan. Stay safe. Have a wonderful weekend. Allah Hafiz.